My buttons to unmute us didn't work. Now they worked. Hello, good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in so early. If you're on the West Coast, thank you, Darryll, for waking up earlier than you usually do. We're gonna talk Deathwatch. Darryll just took a A-tier faction up against a whole bunch of S-tier factions at the US Open in Seattle last weekend, coming in 16th out of 221 players, I think it was. That is marvelous, man. That's a great run. So, congratulations.
Yeah. I honestly didn't think that I would even get there.
I
went into that not even expecting to place anything valuable. I just wanted to go and have fun, and then I won my first 3 games. I was like, this is possible.
I might actually see those top tables. Well, it's really cool. We're gonna spend a lot of time on your first 4 games, I think. We talked all this through, and yeah, we're gonna spend a lot of time on the 4 games. Unfortunately, we only have about 2 hours for this interview, so we can't get into the weeds in every single game. But you have a lot of cool tech in this list that I haven't seen on other lists. I want to pick your brain about all of that. But first, I want to know a little bit about you. So, how long you've been playing? How did you get into this? And why did you pick Deathwatch?
So, I've been playing since around 2004. So I started way back in 4th edition. I know some people will have said like I started back in 2nd, maybe Rogue Trader, but for me, I started back in 4th. And my original starting faction was Ultramarines. What can I say? I was young and 14. And it was my father who got me into miniature wargaming. He used to be big into that when he lived in South Africa. And when he moved to North America, he had to give all that up. But then once I was of an age where, it made sense to start introducing me, that's what we got into. And then played Ultramarines up through 4th until Chaos Demons became the thing at the end of 4th edition, tailing into 5th. And then I played Demons on and off until... So I played Demons consistently up through middle of 5, stopped for about 1.5 years, played 6th edition up until the end of 6th, when I then started to do Space Marines, because I then encountered the Black Library lore around the Deathwatch. And something about the Deathwatch, the notion that they are the A team of 40K.
Mm-hmm.
To quote Men in Black and to give major props to the Preferred Enemies podcast, who actually reminded me of this quote: "They are the best of the best of the best with honors, sir." And it really does feel like that when you read through the lore of the Deathwatch, where they only accept the best 99% of the time. You get that those few individuals that like
there are those chapters that use the Deathwatch long vigil as like penance to just like get them out of the chapter. But generally speaking,
yeah, like the Ren Redblade character when they released the Deathwatch Overkill game, and they created lore for it, or Black Shields. Like, you have those individuals who go to the Deathwatch not because it's an honor, but because they need to, for one reason or another. So, but I was not using Deathwatch at the time in late 6th edition. I was mainly just using Ultramarines when their 7th edition Space Marine Codex came out. Oh, just stream popping for a sec. So, I played, and people are going to laugh at me. Who remembers the Space Marine Battle Company from 7th edition?
Is that the one where like you could take infinite rhinos and stuff if you brought like...
Essentially.
Yeah.
It was funded under the point of you have about minimum of 50 Space Marines, and every squad you get a free drop pod.
Wow. So you can just alpha strike the whole army on turn 1?
Yeah, and that's what I did. Went to a local tournament 1 year with no less than 15 drop pods.
That's insane. It's so much to paint.
I
So much to paint.
I did it. I did it,
Yeah.
and I placed second. Only reason I lost is because they they didn't want to give it to the guy with 15 drop pods. Had
So
that victory stolen from me.
oh,
Neither here nor there.
Ken just popped
But,
in to say hi. Hi Ken, bye Ken.
So and then that was I played that up through when they actually released the Deathwatch Codex, which was completely unexpected for me. And then
and that
I played
was
that
6th or 7th edition. Is that 7th?
7th edition.
Okay.
They were the second last codex of 7th edition alongside Gene Stealer cults.
Makes sense.
Played them through, and I ran the hail of frag cannons.
Yeah.
Frag cannons were my jam.
Too bad they're not good anymore.
No, they're not. No, they're not. It pains me how bad frag cannons are. So then 8th edition happened. The Deathwatch 8th edition book came out. I got really excited to Primaris once we actually could run them, because there was a long time in 8th edition where we could not. And then played them for a bit, used a knight for a time. But knights were knights in 8th edition. Came Marine Codex 2 with that balance update to spread the stat updates love through the rest of the Space Marines. And that gave Deathwatch a new lease on life with the Primaris kill team. Because, oh my goodness, I love that squad. I would run 5 basic intercessors with 4 aggressors and an inceptor. Now, this was before we had to mix the same armor types and stat profiles. So I had I had a cheaper squad that could just move up and just do the double shitting with the aggressors all day, every day, and then would run and beat your face with 16 power fist attacks. And I ran 2 of those units, and they were a terror. And 9th edition Eradicators came out. That made me happy. The fact that Deathwatch actually got full-on Codex supplement support with Codex Space Marines made me exceedingly happy. I've been enjoying playing the new Codex because the army has gained and lost over the editions. I cannot dispute that there are some things I wish were a lot better in Deathwatch. But I play the army because I love the army. And then the Army of Renown came out. Then the Army of Renown came out, and I painted my Deathwatch, the vast majority of the Deathwatch that I used at the tournament, during the month of November.
Wow.
The month of November was my month to paint.
Yeah.
I spent 4 weeks, 7 days a week, 8 hours a day.
That's a lot of painting, man.
I was sick and tired of constantly getting zeros on paint score.
Yeah, that's fair.
I hated when I lost too many games simply because I was not painted.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah. That extra 10 points matters, you know. It's
especially when you're playing against good players. You need those 10 points.
Were you actually going to tournaments with unfinished armies, and then they still let you compete? You just don't get paint score?
So this was back like trending towards the end of the COVID pandemic.
Good morning, Jason.
Well, we're still in it, but it was to the end of 2021 when things were slowly starting to get back up in 2021. BC did was a number of local regions, because we actually have a lot of people across British Columbia. We have that have like at least 16 people that play 40K. So what they did was they created the BC League, where every single city would run its own set of 5 games or 5 rounds, such that each person had 2 weeks to play a game and submit scores, receive their next assignment, organize their game, play the game, and then do that.
Yeah.
And that ran for, and in 2021 there were 2 seasons. First season I played entirely unpainted, and I almost took the one division that I was in, just on pure performance.
Even without your extra points.
Even
Yeah.
without the extra points, I was running just pure performance. And if I had painted, I would have taken it even after that loss. So I went
Great.
4-0 through 4 rounds. In the last round, I lost 90 to 54.
That's
If I had all 5 rounds painted, I would have had the score.
Yeah. Crazy, man. Crazy. I'm
And
not
then
I can barely pilot this army at all. So
I mean, as I said, I've had years of practice with Demons, because Demons gave me a lot of crucial positioning plays. Because back when you were playing Demons, the entire army deep struck. So you had, and there was no pre-measuring during 4th and 5th. So
yeah,
you
that
needed
sounds
to
awful.
You had some ways to mitigate it. You had some ways to play aggressive with it. I learned to get my measurements down visually to a very precise point. And I've always been an individual like who tries to play as precise as possible wherever possible. There are going to be times when I make mistakes. It's going to happen, especially when it matters. It needs to be on point.
Yeah.
But and that experience has carried me through, because then I played all drop pod assault, and I could take my aggressiveness that I learned with the Demons and just crank it to 11, because drop pods didn't care. I could land on top of you and I will bounce off. So
well, I mean,
that
yeah.
was.
Oh, sorry. What were you gonna say?
It's all good. It's all good. So yeah, and then but I didn't run the army that I painted for this last year for the season. I ran most of it. I had to make 3 adjustments. First came from a ruling that I got from the TOs pre-tournament, which was, how do Flamestorm Gauntlets and other flame weapons interact with the Specialism Extremist stratagem?
Right. Common
And
question.
they said it does.
Yeah.
And they said it does.
Mm-hmm.
So I needed to build and paint 5 Flamestorm aggressors
to
swap for my Boltstorms.
Yeah, I think that's been the ruling generally, right? Like
the WTC and the ITC both have said that it does not.
Oh, really? Okay. Because I thought that was all settled. Okay, I thought that was all completely settled, because in a rare rules portion of the book, it says anytime an automatic hit roll is made, it is counted as having been rolled. And I thought that was but people have still judged that differently.
Yes, the last time I checked the WTC ruling, which was before the tournament, maybe a week or 2 before, it still was a no, because the notion of auto hits as auto wounds just seemed a bit too much for them.
Okay.
Even with the rare rules clarification in the glossary.
All right.
Regardless.
Yeah. Like.
And then Armor of Contempt. Armor of Contempt was another big one that came down. It's like, that's a thing. And now did you try and figure out how can I get rid of as many storm shields with as few models to replace as possible?
Yeah, I went through that too, but I magnetized. So for me, it was pop off the storm shield arm and pop on like a chain sword or a lightning claw or something, you know, like for me it was pretty easy. But I've done a lot of modeling and a lot of magnetization. I cannot imagine playing Deathwatch without magnetizing. Like, we have too many options.
Too many options, but I've long accepted. I have tried working with magnets and I've not had great results with them.
I'm gonna put together a video about exactly how, like, I have a system and it works. So.
Oh, absolutely, and I would sincerely enjoy it. But the problem is, for me, every time I seem to try to use super glue with magnets, the super glue or the super glue just fails.
Yeah.
And pops free. At which point, like, what was the point? That's been my experience. And the other thing that I needed to change was how Shroud field stratagem and how it works with Corvus Black Stars and how it interacts with terrain has actually been pointed out to me as to be kind of flawed. And it is absolutely true, and I'm surprised that more people haven't been paying attention to this.
Well, it's because no one
And I'm
runs the
pretty sure
Corvus, man. I'm sure.
yeah, and
Like, I love it. It's a great model. It has let me down every time I've used it.
not me.
Yeah, I
actually
definitely
get
want to talk to you about how you use that piece of tech, because we see like some people doing very well, like Terrence Drew over in Australia places like regularly towards the top third of like every GT over there, and he brings 2 Corvus Black Stars all the time. And it's a mental process to make those things do work that like I just don't like. I don't know. It does not click for me. Like I either fly them up and they die, or they miss everything, or don't wound, or they do 1 damage for the las cannons, or they're at like way out of position because I'm trying to be like cheeky with them. I don't know. I'm bad at flyers, but this show isn't about me. This show is about you.
So let me just quickly explain the Shroud Field, and this was pointed out to me by Michael Costello, because he and I have been long talking ever since the Army of Renown came out, of he and him basically exchanging insights and knowledge just to make sure that we want to make sure we get every inch out of this army as possible. So the issue with the Shroud Field is it states the Corvus cannot be fired unless it is the closest eligible unit, which means that over obscuring terrain, if I have a brick of terrain here and a brick of terrain here, plane here, and a unit here, if I have a unit on this terrain, but they're behind this terrain, it doesn't matter because they can see the Corvus across all of it.
Yeah, it doesn't work with
Shroud Field. So my original design back from the November time was I was running 2 planes, but I dropped down to 1 mostly because I wanted to tech in with the librarian and the apothecary, and that decision made a huge difference. Yeah. Absolutely a huge difference. Running the librarian and the apothecary made a big difference to how things played out.
That's actually an excellent transition into your list, because I'm gonna do that right now. So we're looking at your list. There is a whole lot of tech in here that we don't see a lot, like doing well typically. So I'm just gonna do a real quick overview, and then we'll get into the nitty gritties. Captain on bike, you gave him the armor Indomitus, and the mastercrafted weapon with a Thunderhammer. We got a librarian and Phobos armor. They have the beacon Angelus, which I assume you're forward deploying them and then pulling the team to them like turn 1. But we'll get into that later.
That is correct.
Okay, correct, yeah. Cool. And the camo cloak thing works amazing with the new AOC. We got the Primaris Chaplain on bike. It looks like the only thing you did differently than a lot of folks is you gave him Anvil of Strength from the Salamanders for +2 strength. So you made him into kind of a beat chaplain, where usually Deathwatch Army of Renowned lists use them as like a buffer and a positional element, and that's it. Then you have 2 Indomitor kill teams, 2 Dose, 1 with the Flamestorm aggressors, and then you have 1 with Eradicators, which is an amazing anti-tank threat. Then you have a melee Proteus kill team. We see this a lot. We got Thunderhammers, we got Chain Fists. Were you still actually running 4 Storm Shield guys, or is this okay?
I didn't have the time to change. I did not have the time to change them.
Got it.
And then ended up not mattering over much to me.
Okay, I want to talk about that as well. Then we have a Spectre's kill team. This time you went with the Las Fusils, and we don't see those very often. Although the Las Fusil is hands down basically the heavy Hellblaster, but not sucky.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then an Apothecary with Chief Apothecary and Selfless Healer, and then rounding out the entire list, we have a Corvus Blackstar. which is also outfitted for anti-tank. So when you were putting together this list, other than the models that you needed, like when you were just thinking about this as a mental exercise, like what was the overall goal of this list here? Like what secondaries did you want to bring?
This
All
goes
that
back
jazz.
to my design. When I was building the list, I was actually not considering over much like what secondaries do I want to push for every game. My list design philosophy back when I was building the Army of Renown in November and painting in November was, let's build a thematic Deathwatch force. Ultimately, that was my goal, was to build a thematic Deathwatch force, which to me, I always look back at my 7th edition and 8th edition Deathwatch Codex and look at the structure of a Deathwatch watch company. So that's a captain and 4 kill teams. So I needed to build everything around the notion of a captain and 4 kill teams.
Okay.
With that in mind, adding a 5th kill team was never really an option because that breaks that traditional mold. Now, granted, the traditional mold may be neither here nor there, and I've actually been tempted to run a 5th team. But I wanted to see, can I make a narratively sound and respectful list work? And I have so far. And then run the Corvus captain and then a couple of supplementary characters. So with that in mind, I then looked at, what do I need out of a list? I need a big anti-tank threat, which those are my eradicators. I've run those that eradicator unit for many months, and that works.
Do you combat squad at all?
I do. I always, the only squad I never combat squad is my aggressor squad, and I'll only combat squad that if I need to.
Okay.
I want to keep that.
We're losing you, I think.
Together for specialism extremists.
Yeah,
5 aggressors.
Hey, Darryll, I think we're losing you a little bit, my man. All right, guys, I'm gonna figure this out. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. It looks like Darryll had a little bit of a internet hiccup, and it started when I asked you, do you combat squad your eradicator team? And then we lost you. So
the eradicator team, yes, it always combat squads 3 and 2, 3 and 2. So I always have body bags. Sorry, guys. I always have heavy intercessors as body bags for the eradicators because that's the meat of the squad. It means my opponent has to chew through no less than 2 bodies every time before he even hits one of my anti-tank. That's important for me. It also means that they have they can't no matter what they dedicate, have to overcommit to kill the eradicators. And that actually worked well in my favor in multiple instances. Spectre's team, I also always combat squad, but now that I've added the Helix Adept, The combat squad dynamics with that has changed as well.
Okay.
The Proteus team, I also always combat squad, and the brick with the aggressors. Decision about that squad, that unit, it comes down entirely to: do I need board presence, or do I need a threat for specialism extremists and my teleport?
Yeah. I mean that. What is it? How many wounds does this team typically put on a model with specialism extremists?
So if I was running the in the originalist design, when I was running the chaplain with recitation of focus, so +1 to hit,
right?
With that and the captain and running bolt and frags, I would typically, out of that one unit, drop 61 wounds after all the rerolls into hit modifiers, hitting on 2s with reroll 1s. 61 wounds at AP1.
Mm-hmm.
Moving to the Flamestorm gauntlets, that math shifts down to about 52 wounds.
But it's at AP2?
It's still at AP1. It is still at AP1. But the trick is, because it's
in tactical, right?
Only in tactical. But also against armor of contempt armies, it's always AP0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair.
But the important thing is, the reason I did that tech is, if I ran into an army that had multiple hit modifiers that were applying, like maybe it's a dense cover situation, or maybe they with some other modifiers, I didn't want to have to deal with the hit modifiers, continuously forcing the chaplain to babysit that squad, the captain to babysit that squad.
I see.
So moving to Flamestorm aggressors actually gave me those 25 points in hand to be able to do something else with. And also, because the chaplain used to carry the beacon and be that central buffing mobility character that you gave mention to, but the moment I gave it to the librarian, I have the Lord of Deceit on the Spectrus team sergeant. I can be so much more aggressive with that combination. Meaning, I can, if I'm going first, deploy with Lord of Deceit aggressively, and the aggressors come forward completely unbuffed because they don't need it anymore. They don't need any hit modifiers. And then they can flame or charge as needed. And that worked every time in my first 4 games, where that if I needed them, I got them. And as you mentioned, like the chaplain, let's take a moment to look at the chaplain. So within the majority of Deathwatch lists these days, and with my original list design, I was running him as a buff character.
Same. That's how I run him, yeah.
Litany of Hate and Canticle of Hate are 2 amazing buffs. Now, it then depends, do you want to give a unit +1 to wound in melee? Do you want to give them +1 to hit and shooting, or +1 to hit wound and shooting? But when you are running with high strength weapons that are already consistently wounding on 3s more often than not, or you're just getting auto hits out of the specialism extremists, or you also have multiple ways to get full rerolls in the army anyway, with either taking into lightning claws, specializing on a particular kill team specialism. I didn't see the need for the wound bonus to actually be an issue.
Okay.
So I looked at it, since I no longer needed the chaplain to zip forward with the beacon, I can give him something else. So I went with the Benediction of Fury chaplain mace and give him Mantra of Strength.
Yeah,
and he becomes a terrifying force in melee.
Which increases his attack and strength and damage by 1. It's just his, correct. But still, like, so you give him. So now he's got a 3 damage Crozius. If he gets off what? Litany of Hate and Mantra of Strength, you're looking at rerolling all of your hits, hitting on 2s. Yeah. Wow.
So in a turn when I decide to declare either Blood Angels or Flesh Terrors, he charges in with, and he's fully tooled. 6 attacks because 4 base charge mantra. Hitting on 2s, rerolls because Litany of Fate. Strength 9 because 6 with Benediction, 8 with Salamanders, 9 with Mantra. wounding on 2s because Blood Angels are flesh terrors.
Yeah.
And AP -3 with Assault Doctrine, because Benediction of Fury is a default 2, which is important. And it's a 3 base damage, going to 4 with Mantra. So he can kill a knight on his own with, just don't roll once, and I will kill a knight.
Yeesh. I should try that out. That sounds really cool. I do have a librarian in Phobos armor too, all painted. I've only used him twice as a proxy for a Primaris librarian. I won my librarian in Phobos armor from a raffle at the end of a Crusade League. So
nice.
Yeah.
So, and then the spells I took on the librarian were Premorphic Resonance and Fortified with Contempt, 2 good staples.
Yep.
And holy shit, was that such a better choice than running the plane. I gotta admit that. Being able to
those powers add
down
so much reliability, right? And stickiness.
Getting the power fist down to AP to hitting on 3s by default, hitting on 2s with Space Wolves.
Yep.
No one wants to hear the phrase and 20 power fist attacks hitting on 2s. What?
Yeah, it's good, real good.
Yeah. Fortified with Contempt, just a very good durability buff. It actually helped me win 1 game just by having the Feel No Pain on the Aggressor brick.
Yeah. And
such a much better choice.
And the Phobos armor, so like I was saying, I saw you had Phobos, and I was thinking, okay, so he's got a Spectrus team, they can forward deploy. He's got this Librarian, they can forward deploy. As you said, the Spectrus team has Lord of Deceit, so they can redeploy. Although, isn't the Lord of Deceit, that has to be done before you know who's going first, right?
No, you know who goes.
Oh, okay.
You know who goes first.
Cool.
It's before the game begins, but it's after deployment, after the rolls for first turn, but before the first turn begins. You get to redeploy up to 3 of your Phobos units.
Okay, very cool. And then, you pull the Indomitor team to the Flamestorm one, and then you go to town on something on turn 1. That's really cool. I like that. So you you're doing what everyone else does with the mobility of the chaplain, but you're doing it pre-game. That's neat, dude. Exactly. That's really cool. Yeah.
And the other thing is, if I pull the Librarian back, it just means that I need to shift my perspective on where and when I use the beacon, because that then allows me to be aggressive with other things, such as when I'm needing to teleport in an Eradicator team to threaten a backfield, and if it survives but isn't slain, and it's now very much out of position, now you come back into position supported by the rest of the army.
That's cool. That's a cool idea. Yeah. So you can, the next turn after you drop them, you can teleport them out to safety.
Yes.
That's cool. So, and then we also have the teleport stratagem as well, which allows us to do the same kind of thing with another unit if we want.
Yes. In my game 1 against Jason Bird's Death Guard, I actually used that very tactic I just mentioned to exceedingly good effect to score me to help me max my Nachman data secondary.
Oh, cool. So drop down, do the action, spend 2 CP, still shoot, and then pull them out with the beacon later. Very cool.
Yes. And the captain with the mastercrafted hammer, just to finish discussing, to continue discussing this. I have a lot of Death Guard in my meta. I have 6 or 7 Death Guard players minimum.
The damage 4 is a big deal.
The moment you run into 3 wound models with a -1 damage effect, you need damage 4.
Yeah,
that's just a thing. Armor Indomitus, so I can have a brick of a character that can tank small arms fire, that can tank a good Overwatch, and with the once per game 3-up invul. Yeah. If my dice decide to not be trash, he can actually survive reasonably confidently against a lot of things.
Yeah.
I've tanked knights, I've tanked disgusting shooting phases, and he's emerged unscathed because of that 3-up invul save.
Good morning, JP. Thanks for swinging by, man.
And then I believe the thing you're most interested right now on, since we've covered everything else, Oh no, let me just finish the spectrum because you asked after the last fusils.
Yes,
The
yeah.
reason for the last fusils and not the bolt snipers. This was coming just out of the release of the Orc Codex back in October, and end of September, October region. And you'll recall one of the big rules in that book was Ramshackle, -1 damage against anything not strength 8.
Yeah.
And I was actually listening to a podcast out of Australia who made the comment of a Venator Spectrus kill team with 5 last fusils is a terror to any orc buggy because it just hits on 2s, no worse than 3s, and it's strength 8, reroll 1s, and -3, so you get no save, 3 damage, 3 wounds to go through. That's a picked up buggy.
Yeah. If you, I mean, and if they have a lot of buggies or fast attack, and you pick Venator as your battlefield roll, then you're gonna reroll all wounds.
Exactly. So, and then as well, Venator has the addition of being able to spec against flyers. They're not very common, but they do exist, even in casual settings. So they have a dual purpose utility. Then, even with the change that came out in the balanced data slate to Lookout Sir, bolt sniper rifles are turbo, in my opinion, because you need to be able to see the model,
Yeah.
to be able to shoot them. And if they're hiding the model behind a wall, it doesn't matter, especially not with the Games Workshop rules. So they need to be able to see the character. A lot of the characters you would want to shoot anyway, some of them have damage -1 mechanics. Looking at you, Nurgle, Demon Princes. Looking at you, some of the Space Marine, Black Templar characters can reduce damage. A lot of characters still have 4-up invulnerable saves. Only be wounded on 4s. Higher than toughness 5. The only thing you're killing are like support characters that they decide to let you see, and that's not something that you should reliably spec into with regards to your your eliminators. At least not that I have found. I have never found the bolt sniper rifles since I swapped to lattice fusils. I've never wanted or lacked for sniper.
I took some eliminators to a recent RRTT, and I had the same kind of thing you are talking about, where there's enough obscuring terrain on every table that there, until the end of the game, there really wasn't a lot for them to shoot at anyway. And then my first game where they did have a lot of shots was against Tyranids, and all the Nid HQs are like T7, T8. So firing strength 5 at them feels really bad.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
The bolt guys do have a blast profile, which was pretty helpful into some gaunt carpet stuff like shenanigans, but that's very niche. I've been wanting to play with the las fusils myself, so it's cool to hear that you got so much good use out of them.
Like, the last fusils were actually critical for me winning my game 2.
Mm-hmm.
They were absolutely critical for me winning my game 2.
So JP has a question, and we touched on this very briefly, but I do want I think it's a interesting question. What is your modus operandi for combat squatting in general? Like, when you approach a table and you look at a mission, what are you thinking about when you're like, I need to combat this squad and this squad, but I don't have to combat this squad, or combat squad this squad?
So I've got 4 kill teams that can combat squad. The first ones that I will always combat squad is the Spectrus to kill team. I will put the Helix Adept and 4 eliminators in one squad, and everything else in the other. And then I will be super aggressive with their deployment, because with Lord of Deceit I can remaneuver. And they tend to be the non-super eliminator squad tends to be my action monkey. I will put where I need to have a specific action when I need it. The last fusil section, I will deploy, put midfield or side field, good line of sight lines, and then just sit as a brick, because with the Helix Adept, Armor of Contempt, and cover and camo cloaks, they don't shift ever.
Unless you get in melee with them.
So that's what come to melee with me. Please get in range of the rest of my army.
Yeah.
The next unit I'll discuss is the Indominator kill team with the Eradicators. Always combat squad at 3 and 2, Eradicators and heavy intercessors, just to provide body bags, so I spread my meltas. There's no need to overkill something when you can do just enough damage in multiple locations. It's been my theory. That has bit my ass in the past, but I never really lacked or wished I had all 5 Eradicators going into something.
Mm-hmm.
That just means my opponent can just nuke that one squad. I want to have some contingencies. You want your contingencies. Next, my Proteus kill team. I split that squad straight down the center. So 2 veterans, a Vanguard veteran, a Terminator, and then a guy with a hammer. And that's a perfect 5 and 5. They can both go in the Corvus Blackstar that I have, which I'd used in game 1, or they can deploy sideways in my backfield for objective control and backfield support, or they can do both, jump into the plane and go do something else later, which has happened. And then the last squad is my Aggressor Brick, and I don't combat squad that unless I need to board presence and I'm not taking, something else. Because they tend to be my Beacon Angelus preference.
Right.
So if I can take advantage of that, I do.
So when you say board presence, do you mean like, I know I have to move block this guy, like, he's got a whole bunch of gaunts or he's got a whole bunch of conscripts, like wasn't there a list at the US Open with like 300 conscripts in it or something? And then they're like those kind of lists. Is that where you're like, all right, I need more board presence, or do you mean there's more objectives, so you need more units, or
the latter?
Okay.
I know that as a Space Marine army with 40 infantry models, you cannot control the board the same way that a Horde army can. In fact, the one army that made top tables was a Disciples of Be'lakor list. That, oh my god, the nonsense he pulled. I'll discuss that later. I never ran into him, but I've heard and seen it. It was terrifying.
That's awesome.
But if I need to combat squad my Aggressor Brick, it's because I need to have one more unit somewhere, either for drops or for actions or for objectives. And I only do that if I absolutely need to.
Yeah.
Or say, for instance, I know that I'm going to need a bit more screening because he's an army that can heavily go into teleport, and having a single brick forces it. You can't cover the same board area with a 10-man that you can with a 5.
Yeah, that's true, because you have more options to drop in.
Yeah.
How
so that's
I mean, talking more about deployment, which is one of the weakest parts of my game, I think, in general. What are you thinking about putting into Deep Strike? Like, do you always put one unit of like the Eradicators into Deep Strike? Do you and I know it'll change based on the matchup, but when you're looking at a threat on the table, what are you thinking, and what makes you put what into Deep Strike? And do you always put like 2 units in, or only 1?
So with that, I'll 95% of the time put my use the teleportarium stratagem on the Indominator kill team with the Eradicators, combat squad, and then they go into teleport.
Okay, so you spend 1 CP to put 2 units into the teleportarium because of the way that combat squatting works?
Yes, because the way, and I clarified this with the judge at the event, because start of deployment, which is when you perform your combat squads, and then but the stratagem is used during deployment.
Right.
During deployment, as per the rare rules, has been clarified to be at any point between start of and end, and that includes start of. So you can use the stratagem on the. You're following the line of logic.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to say it out loud anyway, because others might be painting right now when they listen. So
yeah, you use teleportarium on a kill team. combat squad, that kill team. They have the teleport strike ability, and then they can both go into the teleportarium. So
Interesting.
the Eradicators are the only unit I will teleport because I need every other unit on the table. Spectre skill team, they're deploying midfield. The Aggressor Brick, they need to be on the table to benefit from the beacon if I decide to use it. And the Proteus kill team, I have the plane for any deployment nonsense I need.
Okay.
Speaking of the Proteus team, I think this is where you're really curious how and why I built that unit.
Well, I know you have a lot of storm shields in here, and those aren't as good as they used to be.
Yes. If I had the ability to, if I'd had another week, I would have been able to take advantage of the Armor of Contempt change and drop the 34 points in combat and storm shields that I have in that unit and take a whole bunch more melee weapons. It didn't end up mattering over much that I didn't have those melee weapons. The line of logic when I built that squad before Armor of Contempt was I needed to have a hardy unit that I can put somewhere and say, shift this multi-wound unit with storm shields, or you will have a squad disappear to Thunderhammers.
Mm-hmm.
But
Your
now
choice.
that Armor of Contempt is coming, yeah, it's shoot it, melee it, your choice, but the Thunderhammers are coming. But now that the Armor of Contempt has come out and forced adjustments to storm shields, the unit still has a purpose. It still has invulnerable saves to break something in melee, because a lot of good things in melee want to be AP -3 or AP -4. And especially, and I'll give you the credit on this one, because I was listening to your discussion a couple weeks back, and you were discussing your designs for your adjustment for your list going into the RTT.
Oh,
and
chain
you specified
fists.
that you were using chain fists on the Terminators. So they're as good as Thunderhammer Terminators over there with chain fists, so they're natural AP4.
Yeah.
You have full credit for the reason why I opted for chain fists.
Well, credit for that goes to Deneath when we were talking about the Armor of Contempt changes. So, chain fists, pretty good.
It was that discussion that was going on that I listened to. And
Gotcha.
so
Well, I'm glad I helped, man.
So, and then the chain fists just gave me, they gave me 5 points in hand, but I could do other things with it. Because a chain fist, when it's against a vehicle, is as good as a Thunderhammer.
Yep, sure is.
If not better, because it's AP4.
Yeah.
So, and then that squad, both halves of the whole squad can fit in the Corvus, because it's 8 models and 2 Terminators.
Yeah, so 12 exactly.
And then the Corvus Black Star is their transport. Anti-tank, because you need every bit of anti-tank. I have no lack of anti-infantry with the flamers and all the bolt weapons everywhere. Chain swords, etc., etc. I have no lack of anti-infantry. But anti-tank, you can use every little bit of it. And then the plane occupies a very special spot in my very recent performances. I believe my plane survived 2 of my first 4 games. And the reasons, like, the last 4 games, I could not care less about them. I got ran over by the top meta. Like, that was expected. That was going to happen. But the first 4 games were the games that got me to the top 16. And those are the ones that I actually had the most fun playing. So the way I use the plane is much like yourself when you were describing how you're trying to use them. It's you fly right into the opponent's deployment zone. You try to use the anti-tank. You're praying your dice don't go crap, but dice will go crap one way or another. And it's just you're hoping for the best. I've had my planes live with the -1. I've had them die regardless of that. If they've had the -1, dice are dice.
Yep.
But the important thing to remember is the Corvus Blackstar explodes for D6 and 6.
Oh, so you're using it as a bomb 1/6 of the time?
Yeah, it's a bomb 1/6 of the time. Fly right into the opponent's deployment zone, close into their army, empty.
Mm-hmm.
And if they kill it and it goes up, it does a lot of damage everywhere.
D6 within 6. Nice. Too bad we don't have an auto explode strat.
I wish we did. I wish we did. So yeah, the Corvus Black Star, and its anti-tank has helped many times. I've met. It was very crucial in games 1-3. It was actually crucial in every single of my first 4 games that I played.
Very cool.
If it dies, it dies. But the important thing is, if it is getting shot, something else that is far more valuable is not getting shot.
It's an interesting point. So this Apothecary, this is in the list too. A little bit sweet tech. Obviously, it has all the upgrades for bringing back a model for free and then healing and all that. So how are you using him when everything that's a super threat is either being yanked up the board out of range or is up in deep strike? Right, I'm thinking about all your Gravis units here and how they're just gonna like not be near the Apothecary for most of the game. So how are you using him?
Okay, so first, with the Apothecary in my initial setup, should I go second? Thinking, if I go second, I now no longer require Iron Hands.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because if I'm setting him up, he should be setting up near the Gravis unit 9 times out of 10. But if I have to redeploy my Spectrus teams closer, they can get in range to benefit from the 6-up Feel No Pain. So I no longer require using Iron Hands in the start of the game, meaning I can do Salamanders if they're running lots of reroll wounds, Raven Guard if they're a long-range shooting army. I can take advantage of other defensive chapter tactics and not have to rely on burning a Feel No Pain turn. Once I start spreading out, that's when I will need the Iron Hands. Once I've used my Raven Guard earlier, used my Salamanders, but now that I've spread out and away from the Apothecary, that's when I need the Iron Hand turn, maybe. So that was part of the thinking. Also, healing, you have so many points invested in Gravis and in Gravis. Eradicators, heavy intercessors, aggressors, and eliminators, like, or hell, even the Terminators or Black Shield or the Watch Sergeant, the characters, the Librarian will peril, the Librarian will take a smack to the face. You need to be able to heal some of that damage. You're too expensive not to try. If the Apothecary revives 2 models and or any amount of wounds, he's made his points back twice over. Like, just think on that. The value of 2 aggressors is 80 points. The Apothecary is 105. If he revives 2 models and heals, he's got his points back in the game very, very easily.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And as well with the 6-up Feel No Pain. Anytime you can save a model from being dead is 1 more model that basically goes to getting his points back by a simple stint of revival. Yeah. So the Apothecary gives by initial setup, a bit more survivability, a bit more. The other thing is, the unit has taken damage from shooting. Before it teleports forward, I just revive a model, and then it teleports forward.
Yeah,
Or, when I need to, I will pull a unit from the front of the field that has taken damage back to him, and then he starts to heal it. For example, a to the last target, or because you want to keep your to the last targets alive. But when you're down to 1 model, you need a little bit of padding. And also, in my game 2, I took retrieved Nachmund data, but I was out of good units in position to be able to do the Nachmund action. But I was able to pull a unit that was injured from the front back to the Apothecary because the Librarian was close, healed up to 4 models, and then I was able to do the action. And then instead of having 4 or less, I now had 5 or less.
Yeah, I got you.
So
you made it an instant pass. You don't have to roll, right?
Well, not so much an instant pass, because I only had 3 models in the unit and went up to 4. But now
okay.
instead of failing on 5 or on 5, if I was only 3 models and failing on 5 or 6, when it's 4 models, it's only failing on the 6.
Yeah,
so
you have your
getting that. I'm padding my chances to not fail that Nachman.
Yeah.
And that was the other part of the list tech is the Beacon and the Apothecary work well if they're playing defensive.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I don't know what defensive means, sir. I have no idea.
So when I mean defensive,
I just run out there and I throw as many dice as possible at my enemy.
Fair enough. So what I mean when I'm clarifying between offensive and defensive is there are points in the game when you can recognize that you have the momentum and you're carrying forward. You've been setting the pace. You've been running in there, shooting heavily, doing damage, meleeing heavy, doing damage. You're on the offensive. But then the opponent responds, and you've taken damage, and you need to think, what do I need where for what I need to do? Do I need to, if I'm out of position, so I'm so far away that I'm no longer supported, or I need an action to get victory points, but I've done everything forward, but I've not done everything in my backfield? Do I pull a unit that is more valuable, that is at full strength, from the front back? Or do I pull a weakened unit from the front back? If I pull the strong unit, I'm losing my forward push on that turn. Follow? So if I pull you, so say for instance, I had a Proteus team of full strength. So Terminator bodies, they were midfield. I could either pull them back to do an action, or I can push them forward. If I pull them back, I don't have the damage that they need to be able to be controlled offense.
Right. So now you're on the defense.
From the front back, that unit's performance is already lower than it needs to be, than it can be. Say it's tied up in melee as well. It's not helping the army in that case, right?
Yeah, that's true. So you can pull back your eradicators or whatever.
Rick, did I lose you?
Yeah, you did chop out for a moment there. I thought you were waiting for me to respond. Uh-oh.
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me? No? Hey, you guys get to look at me twice now. Are you there?
There we go.
Hey.
Yeah, sorry, your stream froze on me, so I just quickly rejoined.
No, we could we could hear you and see you moving, but you could not hear us.
Right up. All right, so if you're following that, like, it makes sense to pull the weakened from the front that's out of position, that's not supported back. That's what I mean when I say it's a defensive reaction. It's like, protect what you need to get something else.
Makes sense. Okay, well, we're now in this about 1 hour. What's that?
So yeah, those were all the tricks that went into the list and the tech around the list that you were asking after.
Very cool. That's a neat list with a lot of cool tech in it. I do, however, we have 1 hour to go. We haven't gotten into any of your rounds yet, so we're gonna have to rush through this, I think. But your first game was against Nurgle Demons with a lot of Death Guard in it, right?
More Death Guard with Nurgle Demons.
Okay, got it.
More Death Guard with Nurgle Demons than the other way around. So he was running a Demon Prince, a Tallyman, a Plague Surgeon, a Malignant Plague Caster, a bunch of, like, a brick of 10 Terminators, a brick of 5 Death Shroud, 3 units of Plague Marines, 2 units of Possessed and a Foul Blight Spawn, and then 2 units of Nurglings with a Poxbringer. This was actually on Game 1 stream.
Oh, yeah.
From Twitch.
I'll mention that as well. So the link to that is in the description down below. If you want to watch Darryl's first game streamed by the guys over at the event, you can check that out down below on Twitch.
Yep. And I've watched it multiple times to just help provide a bit of my commentary. Their tactical discussion was pretty much on point. They covered every single aspect of what I was doing when I was doing it quite well. A couple of the things that you'll not know because you don't know the thought process. Some turns I had change my intent going into the turn because certain things just didn't happen.
Mhm.
That's always fine. So game 1 was the scouring. So 5 objectives. Auspex scan the 5 objectives for bonus points. Hold 1, hold 2. Hammer and anvil deployment. Going into this game, knowing what his list was, I knew that I could be exceedingly aggressive with the Corvus Blackstar in my Proteus team because he has no long range shooting, meaning that and his close range shooting is trash. It's basically just bolters. So, if I assume that this is my deployment line here, I set up with all my aggressors and my characters in this section. I deployed aggressively with my Spectrus kill teams in the midfield, and I put my Corvus back here. So heavy deployment on the one side, weak deployment on the other. So I'm baiting the Death Guard to try to take this side of the table.
Right.
He did exactly that. He put a big brick of Terminators in his section. He put a small set of 3 squads here and Nurglings in the front. Then my secondaries for that game were the Long Vigil. It's Death Guard. They're not walking to me.
That's fair.
It actually did end up denying me 5 points for the Long Vigil, but I got easy 10 points for the Long Vigil, and I had to do nothing. Nachman Data and To the Last. Those were my 3 secondaries. And they'll cover that quite nicely in the game as well. On the roll-off to go first, positioned such that he had nothing really to do with his with the one side, and the goal with turn 1 was kill those Nurglings, which Jason was surprised I actually managed to kill it. I know exactly how tough they are, but they disappear very quickly to Laz Fusils. Not gonna lie.
I believe it.
Then the Corvus Blackstar flew over his army into his backfield, ready to deploy, and I actually managed to kill 4 Plague Marines with 4 anti-tank shots.
Impressive. I mean,
the Corvus Blackstar came to play turn 1.
That's funny.
On his turn, he moves forward into the buildings. Can't really do much because he's a close range army, and I've kept distance. On my turn 2, I set it up such that I could eat the weakened set of squads over in the one side, and it disappeared. Like Captain charged in, Chaplain charged in with Montrose Strength. Both Proteus teams dropped out, and it just went.
Crazy.
10 Death Guard models and a character disappeared at the end of the day.
You just, I guess, yeah. You got 4 damage and 3 damage. You got a lot of, like, +1 to wound. Like, yeah.
So, turn 2, I was running Space Wolves. So, all the -1s from the hammers, from the Captain, the Black Shield, the Fist, the Sergeant, those are all gone. And then when the Chaplain and Captain are both zipping in there with their buff auras, all of a sudden, so the Captain's making the Black Shield, Weapon Skill 2, hitting on 2s, reroll 1s. So anytime, and then he's still wounding on 3s. Any failed save on a 5-up is a dead plague Marine.
Yeah.
Sergeant, 4 attacks. If they hit and they wound, there's a dead Plague Marine or a character. Like the entire thing just folded. He didn't even waste his command points to interrupt because my first punch cleared out his possessed, and he couldn't fight. He had nothing to really hurt me. The other squad appreciably, so he didn't waste the command points, and the entire flank collapsed.
Yeah,
and that's just because I was able to use the Corvus as a fast deployment option for that team. Because I didn't have to then worry about teleport. I didn't have to worry about a 9-inch charge. I got the squads exactly where I needed them to be when I needed them to be. So it's
movement shenanigans, man.
Yeah, the shenanigans were real. I did not lack for getting my Nachman points because I used my Eradicator teams as Nachman retrievers. I didn't care that I didn't have their shooting. The fact that it forced his positional play, then I was able to pull him so far out of position by deploying them deep in his backfield. He had it just pulled units away from the fight, meaning I don't have to fight them.
Man, you are so, like, I immediately, like, when I saw your list, like, I immediately thought, like, how the hell does he hold anything with only 4 kill teams?
Four kill
Like,
teams.
you've only got a maximum of 8 units that aren't characters on, well, or a Corvette. So you have 8 infantry, like, objective holding. And I'm like, how does he do that? Because that's one of the things about running Deathwatch, where I play Grey Knights as well. And my Grey Knights, I always feel like I have more bodies. With my Deathwatch, I'm like, holy shit, I don't have enough bodies. I'm always feeling like I'm, like, like I don't have enough board presence or the threats that I want. But
So the thing with Deathwatch is you only ever need to hold 3 points. That's it.
mm,
Only ever need to hold 3 points to be able to maximize your control in primaries and to stop any stranglehold interactions. That's all you need. So if you think about it like that, you need more than 3 units to hold 3 points?
I guess not. No, but
No.
yeah.
Because you just need really 2 for your backfield, and then everything else can bum rush the essential point or another point that your opponent has. So if you consider it like that, you can be very loose on certain objectives positionally,
Mm-hmm.
which you'll see in the game one when you guys go and watch the streams. I left one objective so underdefended, but I didn't care because that is there to be a bait. I'm already pushing in other directions to claim another set of objectives. So, and then any units that you can pull out of your opponent's force to be out of position where they're not able to then react back into the main army, that's units that you don't have to deal with. You don't have to kill them. You just have to distract and delay them. As, especially against Nurgle and Death Guard, they're slow, and if they're advancing, they're not charging.
Yeah.
So it's able to get them back. So if you can remove a unit by not removing it, you don't have to wait. If you don't use your shots, you don't have to use your shots.
That's a meta, like, that's meta thinking way above where my skill level is at the moment. Like, I'm gonna get there, but that's, yeah. So you're baiting a slow unit out of position, which means you can effectively ignore it, which means as far as the game is concerned, it's dead. Um, so yeah, that's great. Like, I always see stuff and I'm like, I have to kill it. It must die.
So moving into turn 3, so his turn 2, he brought his Death Shroud onto the center objective, which was totally expected and planned for. His big brick moved out of the building, which you'll see on stream, and then he's slowly making ways over to my where my Spectres team is. He failed the charge with the Death Shroud, and that's the thing that cost him the game.
Because he didn't get in on your Spectres team?
No. So what I was on the south half of the board, I had my Corvus Blackstar in hover mode because I was using it to move block and to deep strike block against my stuff that was in the building. So he brought his Death Shroud in here, tried to make this charge, and failed. Because he did, the Corvus Blackstar lived. The squad in the building lived. And it meant I now didn't have to worry. And because of that, it kept the Death Shroud pinned in place in the center. And I could deal with them as I wanted. Because as the commenters will say, like a 17 inches. If you stay outside of 17 inches, Death Guard can do nothing. And my positional play on my turn was such that the plane went back, stayed in hover, but it flew over to the side. I kept everything back deep so that he couldn't respond until I had everything I needed in position to be able to jump him and punish him. And then I pulled my thing that I was doing in this game, because I was kind of doing a flex, not gonna lie. Turn 2, I teleported up my Spectres team with the snipers because I wanted them as an option for enactment data somewhere, and I didn't just want to have them be run over by Death Guard.
Right.
Well, he left his Foul Blight spawn out of position.
So they dropped in and just murdered it.
They dropped in and nuked him with 4 last fusils.
Yeah.
And there goes the Fight Last and the Foul Blight spawn flamer.
Yeah. That Fight Last is like so crutch for Death Guard too. It's amazing.
Yeah. So
Great kill,
being able
man.
to remove him, was huge. And then I deployed my other squad of eradicators because the first one I dropped down, like his back corner, his very very back corner, I dropped him. So in later turns, I can walk forward and Melta, but he can't. But I've gone and done the action I needed. And
Yeah.
it pulled the possessed squad so far out of position, it was irrelevant for the rest of the game.
Okay.
And that was turn 4. Right, that was
Yeah.
turn 3.
So we've been talking about this one match for 10 minutes, and we do have a few more matches to go. So
I'll
not
just quickly
to
finish up.
be rush or rude or rush it, but
Big thing. The big thing with this match was the turn 4, when in one turn I killed all 5 Death Shroud. It was a massive amount of shooting that went into it. It was all my charges, and his dice just went cold.
Yeah,
remember,
I mean,
when you have damage for Thunderhammers that hit Death Shroud and they fail saves, it's pulling models off.
Yeah. 4 up invul, -1 damage. They're, you know, 2 up armor save. Yeah. They're pretty tough. And then they get AOC now as well. Yeah, pretty crazy. And I think we lost Darryll again. Be right back, everybody.
So
all right, found him again. We're good.
So game 1 was a 92-63 victory in my favor. Game 2 was against Black Templars. It's probably not a Black Templar list that you're expecting. It was 2 Redemptors, Helbrecht, an Emperor's Champion, 2 Impulsors, 2 5-man bricks of Bladeguard veterans, 2 Intercessor squads, and I thought, and a unit of 5 Relic Terminators with Lightning Claws and Combi Bolters. That was his list.
AOC.
So what happened with this game was, Dawn of War deployment, objectives around the table, hold 2, hold 3, and actually no, it was center. It was the 4 objective one, where 2 in no man's land and 2 in the top, if I recall correctly. I won the roll off to go first, but pulled all my Spectres back because I didn't want to charge into Black Templars because they chose the I'm always an Assault Doctrine vow.
Nice.
So good for them, not so good for me. I don't want to just be giving them the free Armor of Content bonus.
Yeah.
So what I did was I played very cagey that first turn. I was able to drop one of the Impulsors down to 2 wounds between my last Fusel's redeployment and my Corvus Blackstar. So that helped reduce his mobility a titch. His turn, he pushed forward, made a wall of Bladeguard veterans, Helbrecht, Impulsor, Bladeguard veterans with Emperor's Champion on his objective, Impulsor, and Dreadnoughts. So he really set up the layers of defense on his side of the table. I then made to kill the Bladeguard veterans that were in the front, drop them to a single model. This is where the last Fusel Eliminators got their points back in spades. They crippled the Impulsor that was in the center of his formation between 2 buildings, got it down to 2 wounds.
So it's now move blocked his whole army.
Oh, I can't hear you for whatever reason.
Are you all right? Where is your internet? Like, is it
I'm sorry, I still can't hear you. Let me just quickly rejoin. Maybe it's my side. Okay, let's see. Can I hear you now?
Yeah. By the way, like...
No, I cannot hear you.
You can't hear me. Great.
Yeah, I still can't hear you.
All right. Hold on, guys. I'm sorry.
Let me know when we're back.
All right. We're back. So guys,
now I have sound again.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Welcome. So he moved closer to his router. We hope that will fix these weird issues that we're having. So.
Yeah. So as I was saying, so the last few souls got their points back in spades that game, but simply because they dropped an impulsor to 2 wounds and pinned it between his army, the buildings, and basically became a roadblock.
Yeah. You moved they move block his whole army.
They blocked his whole army through the center. So his dreadnoughts completely removed from the game. All they can do is just shoot downfield. His units are going to have to move around the impulsor. It became a major hassle for him.
That's so rad.
And then the Corvus Blackstar actually managed to kill the other impulsor, which blew up in his midfield, in his backfield, and took out, a couple of models. Not much, but it still blew up and did damage to him. Then he pulled forward. So he had 1 unit of Lightning Claw Vanguard vets, so I baited their charge. But he would charge. He would move out. I would charge. But he would charge, try and kill it. I would charge. It was a game of counter charges. Numerous times he made critical mistakes by not using specific stratagems. Like he didn't use transhuman once. When Helbrecht ran forward, killed my captain, and was out of position, aggressors ran him over because he didn't use transhuman. And I was hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s, 20 power fist attacks. Like it. I'm sorry, 4 pinfall saves break.
Yeah, I know. So, I play Dread Knight. I play with my Dread Knights, and they live and die by that 4-up.
As John Murphy and Nick Nanavani said on the streams, fours be fickle.
Yeah, fours be fickle.
So the game was the Black Templar game was a game of charge, countercharge, charge, countercharge. The always strike first. So Premorphic Resonance came in super handy. Fortify with Contain came in super handy in keeping my Brick of Aggressors alive and fighting. Yeah. And just punishing every time he would charge in. The Interrupt with Always Fight First. I was able to kill a Blade Guard veteran unit that charged in with the Emperor's Champion. 8 the Blade Guard veterans. Like, it just didn't end well. Similar situation, I was doing Retrieve Nachmund data and just able to deploy forward, beacon back with a healed unit. Like, it was just a game of really grinding each other down, and it was a fun game. In spite, even so, because like it was just totally fun. The game score though was 92-41.
Yeah, so you like, pretty one-sided match when it comes to the points, at least.
Yeah, it was a relatively one-sided match. He took Oath of Moments, and a couple of other ones that I was just able to prevent him from ever scoring. Like, we both took Stranglehold, he never scored it.
Yeah.
He took Oath of Moment, got 7 points off Oath.
Yeah, it's going to be a grind for the middle when they pick Oath of Moment and Stranglehold. Yeah.
So, yeah, the game against the Black Templars, which was a beautifully painted Black Templars with Imperial Fist supporting Blade Guard veterans and a Redemptor Dreadnought. It really lends to the feel of the Crusaders of Sigismund and being supported by the first by the founders.
Yeah, very cool.
Game 3 was against Deathwing with some Green Wing elements. It was Azrael, Ezekiel, a Interrogator Chaplain, 2 units of 5 Lightning Claws, 2 units of 10 Terminators, with a unit of 5 Eradicators and 5 Incursors.
Okay, so he's got a little bit of forward deploy there and stuff like that.
It was a Hammer and Anvil style deployment again. a 6 objective board again. I set up. I got the role to go first. Moved in, charged with the aggressors into the incursors, ate the incursors. My Corvus Blackstar flew over Ezekiel, tried to kill Ezekiel, didn't kill him. He tried to charge in with the Claw Terminators and bounced off of the aggressors.
Yeah, unyielding in the face of the foe, baby. Like,
yep, and as well, like
that strat is super good.
And as well, when you have premorphic, my spells were stopped, but you're in a ruin, you have the choice of set to defend.
Yeah.
So my Terminators got the free +1 to hit. Please and thank you.
Yeah.
Like, so many people don't realize that that holding position in a terrain like that is so clutch. So clutch.
Yep. You can't fire Overwatch, but you get +1 to hit, which is pretty nice.
No, you can still fire Overwatch. You just don't hit on 5s.
Oh, I see. Yeah. And you don't care because you're flamers anyway.
Bingo. So, ate the Terminators. Was able to, then I got out, ate Ezekiel with my melee, ate the Eradicators with my melee. So his entire right flank folded. At which point he said that after 9 long hours, he was mentally checked out. And I'm not going to force a man to play a game that he's mentally checked out.
Like,
if he says he's done and tired, I'm not going to force it. So the judges were brought over. Didn't actually have rules set out for how to handle a concession.
Oh, really?
They said, okay, you're going to... So they told my opponent, so you'll earn the points that you've earned so far, and we'll give you the points, and we'll give you the average of your last 2 games, which were 92-92. Congrats on your 92.
Wow. So you got 3 92s.
And I was on pace to hit 92 that game anyway. So it was 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. I was totally fine.
Wow.
So after day 1, I was 3-0.
How's that feel?
As I said, I could not have, in my wildest dreams, have thought I would go 3-0 on day 1. I had 3 fantastic opponents, third one notwithstanding. He was still a true gentleman. Like, I thoroughly enjoyed my day 1, and getting those 3 wins was just the cherry on top.
Very cool, man.
And then so cool. After that, I was packing up and almost headed out the door. One of the event coordinators runs over to me. He's like, "Hey, yo, you're Darryll with the Deathwatch? Get your shit out. We're doing showcase, and you're in it."
Uh-oh. So what does that mean?
So out of the 220 odd players that were chosen, only 25 armies or less were selected for paint judging and showcase photos.
Oh, cool. Congratulations, man.
I didn't win best painted. That's not in dispute. But the fact that I was even considered, I was in the conversation that they wanted another look at my army.
Yeah, like, that's fantastic.
My ego was riding so high after day 1. It's not funny. I needed a new hat.
Yeah, a lot larger hat. Nice.
A lot larger hat.
So then your round 4 was against Knights.
Round 4 against Knights. Knights are not a good matchup for me. I have a number of Knight players in my local meta, and I never do well against Knights. But that having been said, I had play tested against Knights, and I knew what I would need to do to be able to have a hope to tie, if not to have a hope to tie. So it was raise banners to the last, and then like some others, and then psychic interrogation. Something to just try to passively survive, pick up points how and wherever I could.
Okay.
Then I roll but then I won the roll to go first.
Oh, you were worried about going second, huh?
If you go second into Knights with Deathwatch, it will take position on the table. They will shoot your plane down if you're running one, and then you're having to passively try to survive, because Knights, even with Armor of Contempt, it doesn't help over much against Knights. They will still have enough shooting to punch through everything.
Okay.
So the ability to go first gave me new life. So I took advantage of it. The Phobos Librarian deployed forward.
Quick aside, I'm actually like, I'm actually surprised. So your round 4 was against Knights, which means that Knight player also went 3-0. That's pretty interesting because like they don't have their new book yet. I mean, it's all been leaked and streamed and stuff. Like we know what the book's gonna be like, but um, yeah, this was I mean, this pre the book, so all they really got was objectives secured from the data slate, and then otherwise they were still their 8th ed codex, right? So
That is
interesting
correct.
he made
Yes.
it to round 4 undefeated because usually knight armies in the current meta are like a gut punch, they're like a gatekeeping list that keeps like will knock some armies out of the top and then otherwise that's like really all they do is they just gatekeep.
Oh, absolutely, and that's the case. And that's what it felt like. This was my round 4 gatekeep. If I cannot beat knights, I don't deserve to be in the top. That said, I do want to take a moment to highlight. I didn't face anything in from the top getting there. It was so it's effectively Death Guard, Space Marines, and Space Marines. I managed to dodge the worst bullets the entire way through the first 4 rounds. So uh, Deathwatch can. So it just goes to show you, like against not the top meta, Deathwatch can perform just fine. Absolutely just fine. Against the top meta, you will get run over. But anyway, so his list was for the Knight player a Castellan, a Megara, a Preceptor, 2 Knight Moirax, and an Armiger. I know they were all free blades. The entire army was objective secured, but I didn't care over much because I wasn't going to make it a matter of fighting over the objectives. So, my first turn, I managed to kill the Preceptor with the Aggressor Brick in melee. I didn't want to use my Specialism Extremist stratagem there to
Right.
shoot it dead. I wanted to get the positional into his deployment, kill it in melee, and then have my unit of aggressors bunkered down. And if I have to, teleport it out and redeploy it later. Which worked. Then I also managed to kill one of the Lightning Lock Moirax. No, I killed the Armiger, which he put off to the side with my last Fusils in the Corvus. So after one turn, he's down a knight and an Armiger. So he's down to 4 models.
That's wow. So
On his
specialism
turn,
extremist worked out pretty well into that super high
I
toughness,
didn't
or
even use. I
oh
didn't even use it.
oh you
I
didn't.
didn't even use it.
You just
I wanted to save it for later, assuming that the squad survived. And it was also the threat of it had my opponent playing so cagey and defensive to try to not just have a knight be deleted by it.
yeah.
So the threat of it was more valuable than the actual use of it. His turn, he dropped the Aggressor Brick down to 1 model on 1 wound.
And here comes the Apothecary, right?
No, what? Yeah, essentially is so pull him up into teleport, and then later turns I just dropped him back into my backfield and just started healing him with the Apothecary, and that was my and I had one dude save me 5 points.
Yeah, that's pretty clutch, man.
So on my turn 2, the Meltas came in. The one squad of 2 were supported by a captain, so reroll 1s to and they went into the Preceptor. That's right, the Megara. And the Megara was not a Mechanicus Knight, it was a Questoris Knight.
Okay.
But he didn't have innate healing for it or top bracket for it stratagems. So he used the rotate ion shields. 1 hit failed to wound.
Wow. Even with is it a 4-up for range then? For
No. My 4 Melta shots into his knight.
Right.
3 2s and a 6, and I failed to wound.
Oh, I see. You didn't even. Okay, I got you now. I thought you meant like he failed all of his saves.
No, he didn't even have to take any saves on the Megara.
Yeah.
And then the 6 Melta shots went into the Castellan. 5 hits, 4 wounds, 4 failed saves, 3 blade reroll, command reroll, 4 failed saves, and then 46 plus 8, and the Castellan disappeared.
Yeah. 46 plus 8. Yep, that'll do it. I mean, how many
So
wounds
after
do
two
a
turns,
Castellan's got? What, 22, 20, something like that?
28.
28.
It
Okay.
had taken
Whew.
5 mortal wounds from when his preceptor went up in an explosion.
Ooh.
He rolled the 6 to explode. He rolled an 11-inch explosion, and everything in 11 inches took essentially 5 mortal wounds, including my librarian. And there goes the librarian.
Oof. Yeah, but like, oof. Crazy.
So the Castellan disappeared after 2 turns, and that was
That's
effectively
bonkers,
the
man.
game.
Yeah. So now
That
he's
was
down to
effectively the
only
game.
3
Megara-
models and no big knights other than I don't
Yeah, the
know all the
Megara-
knight names very well, so
So the Megara is a Forge World Knight. It innately ignores cover.
mhm.
Innately ignores cover. It's armed with what's called a lightning cannon. So 8 shots that explode for 6s to hit. It's Tesla, proper Tesla.
Okay.
Strength 7 -2, 3 damage. It has a flamer, 2d6, always wounds on 2s, AP 0, 3 damage. It has basically a supercharged plasma for its a little stubber instead of the stubber, and its Hecaton Siege Claw is like 12 attacks, strength 8, -2, 3 damage. Sorry, -3, 3 damage.
So
So it's a
pretty
3 damage
decent.
net all around that ignores cover.
Yeah.
It is ubiquitous in night lists because it is ignore cover, it's consistent 3 damage, and it just eats everything.
Yeah, I gotcha.
So he had that and the 2 little lightning lock Knight Morax, which are basically strength 6, AP 0 Tesla guns. So he has 1 knight of 3 damage, 2 knights of 1 damage, and I basically have the game in hand.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he can't even kill you fast enough at that point.
Yep. Because at this point he'd killed just my dice actually went super cold because he shot lightning cannon into my eliminator team in cover, so no cover because it ignored it. Then I just couldn't roll a single 4-up to save.
Crazy.
So the entire unit disappeared. But
we've all been there.
it happens, right?
Yeah, we've all been there.
Essentially, those were the extent of my casualties because the Apothecary is now healing up my Indomitor team that took damage.
Yeah.
So he spends his turns shooting at and meleeing the 2 Eradicator teams, failing to kill either. And so all I'm left with is like a Melta in each squad, pointing at the giant knight, going, "Here, take 2 d6 plus 2, d6 plus 2, d6 plus 2."
Yeah, crazy.
And then Captain and the Chaplain zip in and just start bonking on the tiny knights. The game ended 80-53 in my favor, and he was tabled after turn 5.
Wow. So you actually got to play the whole thing, huh?
Yeah. I managed
Very
to play
cool.
the whole thing for round 4.
I don't think I've finished an entire game when I've been at a tournament. There's just not enough time, or usually like it's over turn 3 and I kind of want to go get a beer or something, and you're like, whatever.
And we were also finished an hour early on the round 2.
Oh wow.
When you're playing 6 models and you've lost 3 of them in 2 turns, the amount of mental energy you have to spend drops significantly.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
So yeah, after 4 rounds, I was 4-0, up seated into the top bracket, and that's where everything started going wrong. I didn't care.
Yeah,
pulled into Tau on round 5. Got run over by Tau. That army is so hyper efficient, durable, fast, and shooty. Like, it was unfair just how fast, how deadly that army is.
Even after the indirect nerfs. Well, they just bring more plasma now, right?
Yeah, he just brought plasma. He had like no indirect fire.
Yeah. That's what we're seeing now, is the indirect fire nerf was so hard that now they're combined with Armor of Contempt, that now they're just switching to plasma everywhere.
Just bring plasma, and 15 plasma shots do work. He had a Riptide Cold Star Commander, and Enforcer Commander, Shadow Sun, the usual super ethereal. A 5-man brick with all with plasma and shield generators. A 5-man crisis squad with all burst cannons. They just dump masses of anti-infantry fire.
Yeah.
2 Devilfish with breacher squads and a unit of crude. And I did not enjoy that. I did not enjoy that game. But I have a rule: hate the army, not the player.
Well, sure.
So
yeah.
So while I hated the game and while I didn't enjoy it because I was getting run over by Tau, like I still had fun. My opponent was a true gentleman, and I thoroughly enjoyed his company and everything. Tau are top tier, and Tau were top tier. Anyone who said otherwise had no respect for what Tau were capable of and are still capable of. And by the way, I really need Games Workshop to fix targeting scramblers. Oh my God, that stratagem is so trash now.
Yeah, that's a great point. Our Nids one isn't very good either. Our Eldari one's great. The Nids one's not good. The marker's not and the Necron one is so situational. It's only good into warriors and immortals, and then otherwise it's so hard to bring back multi-wound models with the new resurrection rules. So
yeah, like our anti-Xeno stratagems really took it in the shorts. The Eldari one is okay. The Orc one is okay if he's running Pure Boys. If he's not running Pure Boys, it's trash. The Tyrannid one is trash. The Tau one is trash because of the change to how marker lights work and when they work. So it honestly is a shame when the anti-Xenos army can't be anti-Xenos.
Yep.
And we don't have anything to deal with Gene Stealer cults.
Aspect scan.
I'm not wasting 2 CP to shoot a toughness 3 unit.
I'm just making
you're 100%
a joke,
valid.
but when
your comment is 100% valid though, and
when Michael Costello was on the show, I asked the same thing. I'm like, Gene Stealer cults don't even have the synapse keyword, even though they have the Tyrannid keyword. So, we're already not getting a stratagem. And then he joked, Aspect Scan is your anti-Gene Stealer cult stratagem because it's the only reliable one with all their deep strike and bullshit.
I'm really hoping come Marine Codex 2, Deathwatch we have to get a new codex supplement because our codex more than any other depends on the core codex and its interactions.
Yeah. Well, when 2.0 does come out, we'll see. I'm sure we'll see Marine 2.0.
I have no faith that it will. I am praying that it will because, again, Deathwatch, all of our kill teams depend on core codex. A lot of our stratagems are now so out of date as to be almost trash. Like number of times I pulled on a Deathwatch stratagem in that tournament, I can count on 2 fingers at best. Teleportarium, absolutely crucial. And then one time I used the anti-Eldari one. Nothing else came out of the Deathwatch Codex.
Yeah.
Nothing else. That's how bad that was. But anyway, round 6, I pulled into Tyrannids. I came so frustrated. Tyrannids, so super fast, so overly durable, so overly wound, so psychically powerful, so obnoxiously buff, just chaining through the synaptic link, not caring about psychic, and for whatever reason, their durability and their melee is just obnoxious for cheaper than anything Space Marines can ever do, and they do all of it.
The Maleceptor is only 170 points or something. Pretty good.
That thing is undercosted with its current rule set. If they don't nerf the rules, it's undercosted by 70 points.
Yeah, it's really, really good for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I've only played the new Nids once, and I played against the somebody who was just getting back into Warhammer. Um, and they love gaunts, so they brought a ton of gaunts and not a whole lot of the crazy new stuff. So I managed to eke out a win on that one, but I didn't. But yeah, the amount of mortal wounds that I think he had Neurothropes and he had a Maleceptor, and I was just like, holy moly, this is insane.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pyrivores are so hyper, like Pyrivores are just dumb. 4 wounds, tough 5. Sorry, 5 wounds, tough 5, and a super strong melee profile and a super strong shooting profile for 30 points a model. What the Games Workshop? Seriously.
Pretty salty.
That codex.
Yeah. We'll see balance, I'm sure. Like
that codex, that army needs to go up by an aggregate of 30% to be fair. My prediction is 20 to 30% across the army for like all the medium bugs. If they don't change the rules, so Raveners, Warriors, Pyrivores, etc., they all have to go up a minimum of 10 to 20 points a model. When you have
a
model
lot.
that is, well, when you consider the best melee models that Space Marines have access to are Blade Guard veterans, aggressors, and Terminators. Okay, they're all 3 wounds. They all have pretty damn good armor save, but they don't have good shooting. They also all have kind of crap melee because it's all at best damage 2. But then you have a third, and they're all minimum of like 35 to 45 points in that range. But when you have a Ravener that can swing in at 30 points with a 12-inch move, 5 attacks, strength 7, AP -5, and they're or the Pyrivores with their good shooting, their massive wounds, and everything, and they're 30 points apiece. That army is so undercosted comparatively with what are supposed to be the baseline expectation for the game. They are cheaper than anything else in the game comparatively. Maybe not Tau, maybe not Tyrannid, Eldar, but God, Tyranids, no. Tyranids was not fun.
So, Pyrovore is 30 points, toughness 5, 5 wounds, save 3+. They have fists that are essentially power swords. Those are just built in. You don't have to pay for them, and then you get a really nice, really nice flamer profile, and then you get the Acid Maw keyword, which does.
So
I don't know. I don't know what Acid Maw does.
So for 1 CP, in the fight phase, when you would suffer wounds, roll a die for every wound you ultimately suffer. On a 4-up, they take a mortal wound to a maximum of 6.
Oh, wow. So they then spray acid all over them while in melee as well, doing mortal wounds.
For a 90-point unit.
Yeah.
90-point unit.
Use the strategy in the fight phase when a unit that contains a selected fight. Select one enemy unit. Yeah. Roll. Wow. Yeah. That's really good.
90-point unit for 15 wounds, tough 5, 3-up armor, mastercrafted power swords in melee, and a super strong flamer, and the ability to just go, you want to kill us? Take 6 mortal wounds. Because 15 dice on 6s, you're getting 6 mortal wounds. 90-point unit.
Yeah. I like I said, I haven't played the new Tyrannid. Like, I definitely have not played a top tier list. I know that they're overtuned. We all know that they're overtuned right now. So I don't want to spend too much more time on this topic, but they're in a pretty good spot right now.
So I lost that game. Round 7, I pulled into Craftworld Eldar. My opponent insisted I keep the distinction. It's Craftworld Eldar. He was running Ulthway. We each did 1 turn of interaction, and then the game became solitaire. I was bunkered into a building, into 2 buildings. He was bunkered into 2 buildings. neither of us had the speed or ability to interact with each other, and he had the firepower to be able to, and speed to be able to get onto the center objective and shoot anything that I would try and take it. I couldn't. So we basically accepted after one turn, 95-90 win. Sorry, 95 win, first 90 points coming up. And we just accepted to be able to just, yeah, this is solitaire. Let's not waste our time.
I'm sorry, how did you guys come up with the scores there?
So we accepted that neither of us could win. Sorry, I couldn't win because I didn't have the durability or speed to be able to fight over the primary objective.
Okay.
He took a secondary that was already 5 points down. He took the secondary that's better teleport homers. But because I was so protected on my deployment zone, he couldn't get in to maximize it. So we accepted. He gets 30. He gets 40 points on his secondaries, full primary plus painted. So he got 90.
Okay.
95.
Yeah.
I could not maximize primary, so we said 40 for primary and maximum on my secondaries.
Mm-hmm. So 90.
And we basically accepted that, and that's how we got to the score, because we both accepted this is not worth playing for another 2 hours of trying to slowly move across the table, try and get around a building to be able to shoot or charge, because we were both also playing that semi-liminal space of 1.1 inches from walls, so you can't be charged.
Yeah.
So there was nothing that either of us could do. I didn't have the speed, and he didn't have the firepower to dig me out.
Okay. Interesting.
But we also knew it was a mismatch. It's Eldar versus Space Marines on a long table edge. Sorry, on a short table edge. Like, there was nothing really either of us could do about it. But it also just highlighted to me, like, just how obnoxious Eldar speed and firepower is. Some of the combos that he pulled off. Freaking Strands of Fate is dumb as a mechanic.
I think it's super interesting.
The problem is when you just get auto sixes on whatever you want, it means that, like, he had a character, he had a fire prism. I wanted to charge it, but he was a gentleman, reminded me, I have 2 auto hit sixes and 2 auto 6 wounds.
Mm-hmm.
If I declare Overwatch, that's 2 fire prism hit. That's 2 fire prism cannons that will hit and wound and kill the plane.
Yeah.
What? And then he had another character that was like, if I hit on sixes, I get extra hits. If I wound on sixes, I get extra mortal wounds. And I already do mortal wounds when I wound you. So, bang, take 7 mortal wounds. What? Just because he had 4 Strands of Fate dice that said sixes to hit, 6s to wound. That was it. What?
Crazy.
What?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. I mean, I like
dumb.
I like those rules that give the army something new to do. Like, I play Grey Knights, right? And so the Grey Knight book effectively came out along with that battle box that was also with Thousand Sons. Those two armies are commonly compared to one another because they're, all psychers, blah, blah, blah. But, like, Thousand Sons got sorcery points, and I think that's a really fun mechanic. Not to say Grey Knights are bad, but, like, I wouldn't mind having something like that to use to change stuff.
Sorcery points, the thing that I actually am fully in support of the sorcery point mechanic, because it lets you do things. It lets you do other things. The reason I hate Strands of Fate is it fundamentally influences the core mechanic of the game, which is rolling the dice.
Mm-hmm.
It removes chance 100% from the engagement.
Yeah, it's like playing Sisters. Like, I know I can make that charge, for instance, because I have, a 6 and a 3, so I know I can make that charge.
The trick is with Sisters, you still have to roll the dice to determine what your miracle dice replacements will be.
Right.
Fate dice, the Strands of Fate dice, they're just automatic guaranteed 6s.
Yeah.
Sure, you have a table, but it's just automatic 6s. And the thing in this game is, how often do you need an automatic 6 to trigger or succeed on something?
A lot.
And it's a lot. And that's like Miracle Dice has the trick of still the chance in what you get.
Yeah.
But with Strands of Fate dice, once you know what you're getting, you can combo around it, and it just gets oppressive. That was my experience. The gentleman I ran into for round 7, absolute A+ gentleman. We spent the next 2 hours talking. On round 8, someone dropped from the top 16. It was my Tau opponent. So I got the short stick of paired out. I got paired down into Custodes, and neither of us had the heart for the game as well. So we both just accepted, like, let's just solitaire this. Let's not waste our time.
Huh. Okay.
So that's where my last 2 rounds were both 90 point losses.
Weird. I don't know. That seems like just such a bizarre thing to. I don't know. I've never. So I've been to LVO. That was the most games I've ever played in one weekend. So I effectively went to a GT because I wasn't gonna make it to the top 8. So I played 6 games, and I played I played them all. We never played through all 5 turns, right? Like eventually at the end of the bottom of turn 3, you can almost always know where this is going, right? Like, and sometimes you punch so hard in like turn 1 or turn 2 that even then. But I've never sat down and played out one turn and then be like, look, man, we're both not gonna interact with one another, so let's just do a 95-90. I know you're talking it out. Like, I know you're not just making up numbers for like what you're gonna get. It just seems strange to me that, I know you're absolutely balls tired, right? It's 9 games in 3 days. That's an absurd amount of Warhammer.
It was also dice were going cold on both sides, and it was just ultimately, just as I said, long day, tired, and just accepting like we'd rather have the companionship rather than the competition.
Gotcha.
It really came down to let's not play against each other, and even with the dice, let's just enjoy each other's company was more the mental exercise that we were both going through after those long days. Because also neither of us were placing or getting any kind of rewards, so neither of us were really. And I don't really care where I end up in the ITC. I don't know where he stands. We were both actually from BC, so it was just better to have a good experience rather than frustration.
Okay, that's fair.
Frustration with dice is the fastest way to destroy a game.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, so we got about 5 minutes, so let me.
You can ask me whatever you like.
I was gonna say, let's actually ask. What do you think, other than fixing our stratagems, of which we've already discussed? Like, what do you think would help Deathwatch be? Points decrease is obvious, is obvious, but like, what do you think is missing, like, mechanically in the codex? What would you like to see?
Well, right now, I don't know if I 100% agree that point drops are necessary, because Space Marines are already at a point. A lot of the Space Marine units are overpriced. Like, a lot of the elite stuff is overpriced, but the core units, they can't really get much cheaper. But what needs to happen is their output needs to either go up or their durability needs to go up. Like, there are ways that you can try and increase the durability of Space Marines. You can't just spontaneously increase the capabilities of the bolter. Like, so the offense just isn't going to happen unless they decide to say, okay, we're gonna have super bolter discipline. Stand still and shoot your bolter twice. Mm-hmm. Or like, something needs to happen with either the output or the durability, and just making the army cheaper overall just doesn't really cut the mustard. Some units absolutely need price decreases. Like, Anything in Gravis needs a price decrease. Blade Guard veterans need a price decrease. The tanks all need a price decrease.
Yeah.
Phobos line, with the exception of Reavers, is actually perfect. I cannot. There's not a single thing wrong in any of the Phobos units aside from Reavers. And
Yeah.
all they have to do to Reavers is give them a rule that says you can't fall back.
Brian is bringing up that they think kill team specialisms should probably be free.
I can agree 100% with like free or a 5-point upgrade, like so many other cheap upgrade options. When we get a new codex, we need to see a re-examination of all the kill teams. Like I love the way that the current kill teams have been designed, but we need to include like Blade Guard veterans. We need these new Primaris Terminators if ever they come out. We need we need better synergies built into the units. Is the other thing is so many of these new armies and units have so many additional support rules and everything else. But Deathwatch lives and dies on sadly the core state, the core data sheets, and a lot of ancillary stratagems for abilities we used to have, but in the early design days of 9th edition, take away those abilities, make them like as Games Workshop use like Melta bombs and all those ancillary upgrades that people tack on just to fill up points, make those other things.
Yeah,
but
like on the Tau Crisis, like Tau Crisis suits, where like you can change how they play and stuff by the upgrades that you bring.
Like, so the simple fact that Tau battle suits have free support systems that are free rules. What? What? Why?
At least they get options.
Why did they get it? Why did they get it? And yet we get basically kicked in the shorts for like, so our Eradicators are the only ones that can double shoot. We can't fall back and charge or fall back and shoot with bikers or jump packs. Like, why do we get shafted in the shorts and they get all the free shit?
Yeah, I don't know. Just new, just I don't know.
I think ultimately
new codexes, dude.
Needs someone. The design team needs someone who loves and is focused on bringing Deathwatch up some way, somehow, and being told, okay, let's make this not obnoxious. Because the other trick is, if you're going to update an army, you can't just keep dialing the dial past 11.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to have some measure of restraint. You have to stop somewhere where it's not oppressive. And the trick is starting to come to the point of Games Workshop. Where is the line that we can expect our codex to now become, right?
Yeah. Well,
and the other thing that terrifies me, just to finish off, is the fact that the Army of Renown is dead as of January 2023.
Because of the CP changes?
No, because of the content validity update. The thing if you're unfamiliar,
I don't know what this is. What? So
the content validity update was Games Workshop's document that they released before the US Open for all match play, saying we have a bunch of content out there.
Yeah.
Here's the content we recommend you play with, and which content is fair and balanced in a match play setting.
Yeah, and that's what killed Crusher, Stampede, and everything.
That's the thing that kills Crusher, Stampede.
Yeah.
A lot of the Armies of Renown and other codex supplements that are not codex supplements, like from the various books, they have an expiration date of like January 2023.
Oh, really? I didn't catch that part. Like, I saw that some of the books were, losing support in January 2023. I didn't notice that the kill team for the AOR for Deathwatch was on the list. Huh.
I'm just quickly navigating over to it myself so that I can confirm.
I mean, I believe you. You want to send me that link real quick, and I'll pop it up on the stream.
Yep.
I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter because I gotta end soon. But yeah, all right.
Army of Renown valid until January 2023 unless superseded by a codex. Army of Renown, Kill Team Strike Force, page 2.
Okay.
So we have 6 months. We have effectively 7 months left of the Army of Renown. We can expect a codex update. Hopefully, that codex update doesn't.
Here it is.
It
Oh
gives
yeah, I
us
see
some
that.
measure of
Look at that.
choices.
Right here. Warzone Octarius 1 Rising Tide valid until January 2023 unless superseded by a codex. Huh. Okay. I did not realize the AOR had an expiration date like that. I did not pay attention.
A lot of them do. A lot of them do. Although hilariously, the Vanguard Spearhead is valid until June 2023. But whatever.
Yeah. Well, they could update it and everything too, and extend everything another 6 months, or we'll see. Oh well.
In summary, I had an amazing time. I dodged major bullets getting to the top 16. The fact that I made top 16, I don't care that I got run over by other armies.
Yeah, I mean that's quite the accomplishment. I'd be on cloud 9, man. I mean, when I went to LVO and I went 4-2, I was super happy because I expected to go like 2-4. When I got 3-3, I was like, yes! I was so excited.
Nice. Yeah. And I managed to do it all with a Corvus, an Apothecary, and a Librarian, and 2 Indomitor teams. So it just goes to show like there isn't one way to play Deathwatch.
Yeah, which is that I can prove it. Yeah, which is like one of the things I love about this army is there isn't one way to play it. So, but I really do have to end the stream. I have a meeting at work in 10 minutes, so I'll have to let you go. Thank you, Darryll, for coming on. That was a banger of a performance. I know that some people might poo-poo you because you didn't beat Nids like in round 1 or whatever, but 16th place out of 221 players is an amazing showing, especially for an army that we all know is a little undertuned compared to the best of the best at the moment. But thank you again, and thank you everybody for showing up. And you know, we'll be talking, I'm sure, Darryll. It turns out we have a bunch of friends in common, so I'm sure I'll be speaking to you.
Maybe we'll have to organize a game day for the 2 of us to meet up. So
that'd be cool.
I can actually, because we're local enough to each other, we can meet and actually have that gaming powwow. Yeah,
I'm getting my streaming setup all figured out, so we'll be hopefully doing like monthly streams here soon, so live games, and it'd be cool to actually get you down here for one of those. So
that would actually be thoroughly awesome.
Yeah, but I must go. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna end the stream now.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.